Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited about my guest. This is uh, High Priest Kwatamani, an amazing man. He's been on the show before, and he's here again. I'm just too excited. High Priest Kwatamani, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hey, my green Earth solar sun, how you feeling?
I am feeling great because I'm eating the living foods that grow. I'm growing a lot of my food, and I have you to thank for a big part of that because who you are and what you do. And I want to talk about that in this interview because people need to know uh, about you and your teachings.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. What I'm proud of you is every time look around, I ask questions and this and that, they tell me that you still upholding and maintaining the agreement that each and every one of you agreed with. Back in the day, it's been 27 years, and you got to feel proud of the fact that you stayed focused and tenacious during that period of time, and the fact that you are honoring the tree of life because that's our origin. We are first Genesis reality.
Absolutely. And you teach such amazing stuff. But on top of that, in your personal life, from a diet standpoint, you've been eating living foods exclusively for how many years has it been now?
Well, it's right around 60 years now direct. The other times I was eating with a little bit of differences, but it's been right around 60 years and I ain't plan on changing. What about you?
I can't, and I'm not going to.
That's
And
right.
yes. Now when you do it, I remember from interviews previously, and everybody, I'll post those links below. You don't just eat like the banana. You said you've eaten banana peels, and you don't let a lot go to waste. Sometimes, you take it beyond what the average person understands eating to be. Is that correct?
Well, sometimes the things, the byproducts of what we consider the food has tremendous healing qualities. So if you are experiencing certain kind of physical circumstances or sometimes mental circumstances, then it's some of those other elements that you'll need. Some of the peelings are very high in the level and degree of nutritional value needed to keep you mentally balanced or physically balanced, or let's say spiritually balanced. So we have to learn to eat with Mother Nature. We have to learn to enjoy and honor the tree of life. We have to see that we are like a tree, and that as a being living like a tree, we have to honor that fruit bearing experience.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to this, a lot of people here in Florida, and just all over that are growing foods continue to spray foods. And
Yeah,
even people that aren't using toxic pesticides are still having to spray for organic things like copper and sulfur to deal with the things that are in the air that are affecting the fruit production. But on the same hand, I know there are people that know about mangoes. They eat the mango skins quite often. So
right.
how okay is it or not okay to eat mango skins and skins of other things? Not we know the stuff that's been sprayed with toxic pesticides is no good, but what about stuff that's been sprayed with natural things like copper and sulfur? Are those things okay to consume the skin, or should you just avoid it?
Well, I have to shoot straight with you at all points in time. When we grow our mangoes, and this happens to be mango season, our mamey, and all the jackfruits and etc., we don't want nothing messing with them. The reason why we want the bees and the other elements to continue to do what they do to create a fruitful harvest. Now, we had some lychees tree, a particular lychee tree. It was so beautiful and flourishing, had the best leeches that you can think of. And simply by making little mistakes and actually disrespecting the natural process, you can interfere with the life of that tree, just like we can interfere with the life of one of us as a living being. What I would say is this: do your very best to prevent spraying, because pull copper out of the elements of its wholeness, you're kind of separating it. However, if you're in an environment where those things are absent, You gotta find ways and means of getting those elements back into the soil. Otherwise, you're not gonna have any fruit. You're gonna have some kind of mutated experience instead of enjoying the wholeness of fruit. You see, we live in the jungle. I think you know that. I made a
Yeah,
decision a long time ago. Get these children, get them out of that environment. They have to have an experience that will allow us to have an opportunity to express our first Genesis reality. And that's a difficult task. So you're in Southern Florida. I'm sure you're somewhere. I don't know how close you are to Homestead or where you at this
I'm
particular point in
close.
time.
I'm close to
Yeah,
home.
I know that
Uh-huh.
because that's the best area. It has less possibilities of being interfered with. But the entire environment where there's all this different stuff getting into the air and then infesting your food, it's going to interfere with your health. So you just do the best you can, boss, and wash them good.
Yeah.
Wash them.
Well,
Use that.
I'm not using stuff of mine. I mean,
All right. Shoo.
I'm closer to the ocean, so it's not as
That's right.
bad. But we have things like there's something called bacterial black spot that was introduced to this country here in Palm Beach County, and then the leaches here are getting something in South Florida called a leach mite that's destroying all the leach trees unless people are using copper and things to help preserve the fruit. Because if they don't, it's getting wiped out. We
Yeah.
have a beetle that came in through Georgia, the ports, that's wiping out all the avocado groves here, and they
Wow.
don't even know how to protect that. But the things we can protect, like some of the mangoes, you got to spray some things to get a crop or a better crop. Some people say, but I'm not doing this on a commercial level. I'll get enough what I need, so I don't want to spray anything if I don't
That's
have.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Listen, there are certain elements, like neem. Neem has a very protective element, and it has a lot of nutritional value in it. So you can create a neem spray. There should be some neem trees. I can recall
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's more of a natural way to take care of it, absolutely. Now,
That Go
yeah,
ahead.
so you talk about the whole thing. You got the fruit, and then you speak about just everything part of it. So it says in the word that the leaves
That's
of the
right.
tree are for the healing of the nations.
That's
So
right.
I've heard things like papaya leaves are edible, and
Woo!
there are other fruit trees that the leaves are but what about all fruit trees? Are all leaves of edible fruit trees edible for us? And then there's some things that are edible, but you have to cook them to cook out the toxins
Or leave it alone.
or leave it alone.
Yeah, yeah, because the thing is, when you talk about something like the papaya leaf, that is one dynamic leaf. Now, most people for years refuse to want to deal with it because it has a bitter taste. And because all these different concepts about eating the leaves, that is our healing energies. And the papaya leaf, I shouldn't even talk about it so much unless you got some papaya growing.
If you throw a seed on the floor, as you know, they grow into his tree.
That's right. That's right.
So
Well,
tell
here's
us about the leaves. How could you use the leaves in a raw state? How can you use them?
Well, I would do exactly as the supreme elders expressed to us. I use the leaves as a healing energy. The papaya leaf, for example, I love that one, that conversation. It has so much nutritional value. It is so impacted with nutritional value that it's hard to believe that we're not eating it on a daily basis. It has a bitter taste. You have to take the bitter with the sweet. So what one can do is use a papaya leaf just as a little body tonic. Every once in a while, just make you juice it up, beat it up in a little pounder, and just drink it. It will amaze people how much nutritional value it will have, as well as how beneficial it would be if you're dealing with certain kind of bacteria, fungus, and other kinds of things like that. There are leaves that actually work to get rid of viruses, and we need to catch up with things. I know for a fact that you got to be enjoying your being because you've actually been one of those students, one of those solar sons who was listening and paying attention. And you don't know how proud you make I feel when you say you got a tremendous amount of papaya leaves because the fruit is healthy. And then when you think about some of those other leaves like the lychee, the lychee tree leaves are nutritional. But then you think about something like the neem. That's one of the healthiest bacteria fighters that we can eat. And there you just go across the board, you can think of so many of those green leafy vegetables that are actually there for maintaining our mental health as well as our physical and spiritual health and well-being.
What about mango leaves? Are those edible?
Oh my, mango leaves, you know, we have a book called the Code Green. So, I mean, it's a kind of a popular book, and I'll just tell you this, the mango leaves, the thing that it is very healthy for. You be having those little headaches because you've been doing this or that, and you take some mango leaves and you beat them up and dry them or juice them or anything like that, you'll be surprised how quickly it will relieve that stress. There are a lot of leaves that actually are functioning in such a powerful way. It actually makes us know that while we are given that tree of life culture, because it reflects us and we reflect it. And those leaves actually are there to help keep us mentally and physically balanced.
Well, I
So
know
any
that.
of the leaves,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So, people here make a tea out of the mango leaves,
That's
but
right.
and that's what they do. But can you actually like juice the leaves and have it in your juices? And can you chop it up and put it in your salads, or is that it's not toxic? Because I know the sap on mangoes can be toxic. So
Yeah, you don't know
are
that.
the leaves in any way toxic raw, or can they be used chopped up in salads? To your knowledge.
Well, let me just tell you very bluntly. I enjoy my mango leaves. Now, when you said and teas, don't forget that we deal with sun teas. I was not thinking of the fact that you're talking about them cooking them, boiling them. It escaped my thinking at the time. I'm thinking that you're talking about taking those leaves and juicing them up or crushing them up and putting them in the sun and putting your little cover over it and let it sit for a while and then take it and drink it and just get all that living energy in your body. So when we say the leaves, we're talking about you can eat them inside of a salad. You can have a mixed salad. You know, green leaves, like when you talk about kale and broccoli leaves and all these other kinds of things, those are leaves. They are green leafy vegetables. The leaves of the tree are green leafy vegetables. There are some that you should not be dealing with. There are those that you should not be uh, overextending. The idea is to learn how to interface with Mother Nature so that you get the best of her and she get the best of you and we become oneness. You see? So
Absolutely, yeah.
that Code Green book that I'm speaking about, we actually took time and a lot of people were asking and you know, they look at I and they said, "Man, your hair still growing. You still look this and that." And I'm saying, "Hey, I feel very spunky. I'm in the 80 cycle, but hey, I feel good." You have to take care of that body. We have an obligation to take care of that body. We can't eat like we are scavengers. We can't eat like a predator. We have to know from which we come.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, like, uh, I eat like my superfood, the thing I eat every day, the thing I it sustains me. I love moringa. I love moringa, and I'm
Listen to
telling you,
that.
I just love moringa. And there's also something here called kwatuk, which is a delicious other wild edible green. But there's something that I haven't had because they say you need to cook it, but they say if it's cooked, it's really good. It's called chaya, and it's very popular. But they say you have to cook it for 10 minutes or it's toxic, poisonous.
But they're telling you a deception.
Yeah,
Whoever telling you that don't know what they're talking about. We eat chaya, which is chia, and the thing is, you just don't eat a lot of it. because it is an herb. And you have to know what is a healing herb and what is a nutritional herb. And that's a healing herb. You don't overdo it with it. Uh, we're gonna let this tractor pass by.
I can't hear them. That's okay. I can't hear them at all. I see them. I can't hear them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, when you talk about uh, one of my favorite leaves you just mentioned, which is so nutritionally impacted. What did you just say that you ate before you got to the chaya?
Oh, moringa
Moringa.
and katuk.
Yeah, that's right. You can moringa. That's the one. You
Yeah.
eat the leaves. You eat the seeds. But the seeds are actually a healing energy. So are the leaves. But the leaves are so nutritional. I think you realize that.
Absolutely. I powder them down myself and I put them in my salad every day.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. The priestess is sitting here, she's smiling because that's one of her favorite things. If we have anybody who sometimes you run into some of the creatures who bite you, this, that, and etc. Other than using certain natural elements with the clay and stuff like that, what we do is that the person's defense immune system is going to be activated because it's going to start to attack whatever area needs help. And the things like putting those leaves in, those quickly regenerate the body's need for defense immune activation. And so that's you're on the right track. But I
Now,
know you.
as we talk about seeds, we mentioned the moringa seeds, and you just do you chew those moringa seeds?
Yeah, I eat the moringa seeds.
I know they clean up water too. If you put them in water, they clean up water
Oh
naturally.
yeah,
Yeah.
and what you do at night, get you some moringa seeds today. What you do, get you a little thing of water, and you drop you about 5 of those moringa seeds inside your water. And then when you get ready to sleep tonight, you take it and drink it. Water chai easy.
Don't drink the seeds, drink the water.
Drink the water and
Okay.
easy. You sleep.
Okay. Well, we spoke about the moringa seeds. We spoke about and when you eat the seeds, you're just eating like a one or two. You're not going crazy with them, right?
Oh, no, no. No, you have to with certain leaves, even there are some leaves that, and seeds that I actually keep the youth clear on because there are some leaves, some seeds that as a male you can eat, and they will change your whole biological relationship, especially sexuality. So you have to be very careful about how you overindulge unless you decide you want to be a eunuch.
Yeah. Well, that's we got to hear more
That's not
about.
in our culture. That
No,
is not in your
no,
culture, and
no,
that is not and you are my culture, so that is not in our culture.
absolutely not. Now, speaking about seeds and papaya, one of the best things you could do to cleanse your body is to eat papaya seeds. It's an excellent cleanser, right?
Well, the papaya leaves I just love, and then the seeds, of course, you can eat, but you still eat them. Papaya seeds, you be careful with.
I
You
mean,
hear me?
yeah, yeah.
Because that's one of the seeds that I'm talking about.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
you be careful with that.
So what are the seeds? So papayas, what are the seeds in the leaf? I mean, we got a lot of stuff to get into. I want to get into your story and I want to get into raw food, but what are the seeds and the leaves you would recommend people avoid or at least uh, be cautious with from the fruit trees?
Now see, that takes quite a bit because the person has to know, like, there are certain leaves that the feminine can eat. There are certain leaves that the male can eat. It gets really
All right,
into
we'll do another interview on that topic only another time. So we'll get into all that. And but everyone get the book, the Code Green it's called, right?
yeah, cold green.
Yeah, get that book because this information, this wisdom is a lot of this is in there. So get that book. So, uh, so that was a little different than most of my interviews we start off with, where you have so much information and knowledge, and it just naturally gravitated there. But everybody, this is High Priest Kwatamani, and he has been eating Living Foods diet now for over 60 years. What got you in to eating this way? Did you grow up doing this, or does this something like as a teenager or a little kid you got sick and you switched over? Tell us how you got introduced to the living foods lifestyle.
Okay, actually, I was birthed from a within a certain kind of a spiritual family connection. And basically soothsayers. That is, those who are able to see things that some people are not able to see. They have certain kind of relationship with the unseen natures of life. And that grandmother, she was one of them, and the great grandmother was one of them. And so when I was young, what happened? The mother, as parents, sometimes we get interrelated with things that we assimilate, we integrate and we start to adopt things that do not necessarily fit the soul of that child, that offspring. So we have to be very careful and know the soul of the being. They didn't quite know the soul of the I. So they were feeding our things that just did not fit. And it made us very, very sick at a certain period of time, several times, documented. They were prepared to bury her. In other words, he has 3 more hours to live. He had 5 more hours to live. And so what would happen? Everybody would gather, and this grandmother and this great-grandmother, they both the great-grandmother, over 100 years old, they would come in. And when they came in, they would bring herbs and other different kinds of things, and nobody, I mean, like, hey, this child is about gone, so that nobody really was concerned with anything except having those last will and testimonies. And I'll be honest, my soul was not interested in that. And obviously, their presence was not interested. And so they would give out raw foods, different kinds of raw elements, different kinds of herbs, different kind of nutrients. And then for some reason, when the 3 hours or the 6 hour was up, I was still there. Then they would take and then they would fuel off of the raw foods, the tomatoes, things that people got different things about. I don't want to hear about it. Eggplant, different kinds of other plants, especially the kale, the collard greens, and all of those different herbs. I call them herbs because they're food herbs. They would feed those to then they would get other different kinds of herbs from the garden, from the plant, because I was in a garden culture community when I was with them. And every time something happened, it would be that raw and living foods that would bring I back into a holistic living presence. So as I grew, my life became more sort of in my hands. It was absolutely no other decision that I had a desire to practice, and so I consumed of these foods. Now, it was considered very strange, unusual, weird, coming from another planet, all kind of different kinds of things, but that didn't matter. What mattered was having that wholesome health and well-being. I didn't like the pain. I didn't like all of the losing my consciousness, not able to maintain stability. So I would consume these foods and drink green juices, green teas. At a particular period of time, there was a young man that I had encountered, and he was not too well. And everybody had given up on him. And I took him and started to work with getting him to consume the fuels of the fruits of the tree of life and etc. And although I sounded very weird to people outside of that family, the person started to recover. Then people started to get concerned, Paul. You know how they do, my son? They started, wow, he's well. I have this and I have that. And then people started to want to come. But I didn't want to have them go through the same kind of element as this person, because this person was in a dire state. I wanted people to learn how to eat on a daily basis the fruits of the tree of life, fruits, vegetable seeds, nuts, herbs, and spice. So then I actually got into the process of preparing the foods. There are a few people, some of the Victoria Kovinskis, one of those earlier persons I have a lot of respect for. He loved the food, And then Dick Gregory, and in California when I was there, they're having a love for the food. And then it started to spread. People who did not want to eat the foods that I ate because they say that that don't have protein. It don't have, stuff that didn't make sense, but it made sense to them because that's what they were taught. I actually got them to see how does the elephant become so big if protein is not in those leaves? And they're not even getting nuts. They're eating the leaves. And what happens with the gorillas? What happens with all of the other herbivores, those who consume from the tree of life? And we started to get a few people reasoning with it. And from there, I established the first Genesis tribal reality, and we started to prepare foods. I think you heard of this place called the First Intercourse, a place that came about in the 70s, mid 70s, etc. And prior to that, in the 60s, I had a little space that we were dealing with organic produce and showing people how to eat the foods from the garden. So this is actually the experience that occurred, and I'm glad that you actually brought that up because I people often ask, "How did you learn to eat those things? How can you just eat that like that?" And as you know, when we're out in the on the terrain, traveling throughout the U.S., when we're there traveling in Europe, the biggest line, the longest line that people see is that Kwatamani food line. And I think that
Yeah,
when you first encountered, I'd never
yeah,
forget that smile on
yeah,
your face.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the element of the story. What other questions you got? Because I
Ab
love communicating with you. It's honorable. Feel.
Absolutely. And you and I aren't, we don't have to waste time with how do you do this? And this is amazing because to me and you, this is easy. I mean,
It's every day.
I heard an interview today with somebody who's very prominent in dealing with disease and longevity. And somebody asked him, what's the best diet? And the person that was interviewing asked him that. And he said, well, there's a lot of trends going out there now. And, these trendy things aren't considered the best diet because they're trends and they're not able to be done in a long time. And the guy said, and this was a pretty intelligent, or at least I don't want to use the word intelligent, I'll say a person that's obtained a good amount of knowledge according to books said, well, we know that people can't eat. And he started naming off all these diets long term. And he mentioned raw foods long term. And I just said, well, it shows where his wisdom is. He might have knowledge, but he don't have too much wisdom. But
Have
uh,
too much overstanding.
you know, but so be it. So, but I do have some questions now. Uh, Dr. Vishy, who's been doing a living foods diet for a long time, told me one of the secrets and keys to longevity and health in life is the opposite of what people do. When people are overeating and over-consuming, and that's creating disease. When he goes, when you can enjoy not eating as much as you enjoy eating, you've reached a certain place.
Fasting.
And fasting, that's my
Uh-huh.
question to you. Where is fasting in your life, and how often do you do it?
But I'll be straight with you. I'm in this jungle and the food is so delicious, so I have another way of doing it. I just take a smaller proportion. Sometimes the family say, "You're not eating." That's one of the favorite things you hear from my daughters and my son. "You're not eating." And it's like, no, I'm eating. It's just that the whole vibration of what I ate yesterday is still kind of resonating, and I need to enjoy the spirit of that consumption. As far as fasting is concerned, fasting becomes a part of I would say, a spiritual connecting way of life. So if you focus, it's food. You can consume unseen energies. I know this is kind of beyond a lot of people's thinking because they become so physical in their existence, but it's food. You're consuming the energies. We're talking about consuming energies, and food is energy. We're thinking, many people are thinking that food is like that's what fill you up. That's the aftermath. That goes out the back end. It's the energy of that food. So sometimes you need to consume the natural energies of earth, wind, rain, and sun, that fresh air. You need to consume that sunlight. You need to be able to consume those various kind of energies that are around with the trees. Now, this is serious and very serious. I can sit within and among the trees and get the most wholesome nutritional experience that one can imagine. I don't have to chew nothing. Let my mouth rest, let my jaw, let my intestines rest, let my whole dietary system rest so that it can actually rejuvenate. Overworking it gets you to the point that you wear it down quickly, like any other process. So getting it a chance to rest, the best ways to do that is fasting, but you need to know how to fast. You need to know how to consume energies. You don't want to be around people who are toxic, Paul. You don't want to be around people who are imbalanced and you're fasting because their energies will be consumed by you. You want to have peace and harmony and tranquility, and then you don't need the extra activity of the body. You need it to rest, and that's what fasting should really be about. A lot of people try to turn it like some kinda, how we say it, some kind of spiritual upmanship and etcetera. It is a part of our living experience, and when we wanna collect energies and we wanna connect with that most supreme unseen essence of who we be, the best way to do it is to put that as your primary focus and go into a nice meditation and feel those energies surrounding you, around you, within earth, wind, rain, and sun. Oh, that is such a beautiful experience. You don't need to eat anything. I could do that for a while. I got lost one time, Paul. One time in Africa, there were some situations that was happening, and I honestly had lost all desire to eat. The only thing is, I almost overdid it because I wasn't consuming anything. And it just felt so good. I forgot all about the process. I mean this from my heart and soul. But I was in an environment where I was feeding off of the energies of the trees and the fresh water and the clean, wholesome air and etc. And I got so skinny because that was fueling the soulful essence of I, not fueling this body. So we have to take the fasting with a sense of moderation. We have to comprehend the energies that are around us when we decide to fast, and it is not a fad. You do not try to get a one-upmanship on people to tell them, "I fast for 3 days or 10 days or 20 days." Or it needs to be about a purpose, a reason, much greater, of a higher quality of living experience, interrelated with the most supreme essence of who we emerge out of, and giving honor back to that tree of life culture. That's my point on the fasting, and this is the experience that and I have lived these years, and I teach this to these offsprings so that they can go forward and multiply.
Well, thank you for that answer. Besides that moment of the long time where you went without food, when you talk about the energies around you and you can go without food because you feed off that, are you talking about missing a meal or are you talking about days or weeks?
Oh, no, I'm talking about days and weeks. You know, actually, it can be days, it can be weeks, it can be as long as you're feeling it. That particular point in time I'm talking about, I went basically into a 2-month period of time, and it got to be kind of unusual because I was in a whole different kind of a head spacing, and it got to be such a good spiritual feeling that I had almost decided I don't want to eat anymore.
Well, not
But
that. I don't mean that time.
fortunately, there was enough sense in there to know that you got to take care of the brain, the body, and the spirit.
So tell us about the topic of sleep because sleep is something that the average person, I don't believe they get enough. I know a lot of healing takes place during sleep, but you've been eating a living foods diet for 60 years and more. Uh, Tell us about sleep and your understanding and your journey with it and how much you require and get.
Okay, sleep is a real simple thing. Your body, the reason why we need to sleep is because the body has been working intensively. And in order to give it recovery time, we're given this experience called sleeping. Now, weather and all those other experiences can interfere with the body's ability to break down. That is, it requires so much energy. Keep the body warm if you're in a cold environment. It requires so much energy. If you're somebody who go on the go, stress, anxiety, all of that calls for a need for sleeping. Now, if you are living in an environment where you have a more at ease experience, and if you are living in a garden environment, you're getting those energies within that environment that makes you more peaceful, relaxed, and at ease. That's what sleep is supposed to do. For many people, they are really not getting enough sleep based upon their mental experiences and based upon their physical activities. They're required to get up to go to work. They want to look at the late news or whatever the experience that's going on out there. And then they're doing certain other things with their body. They're putting too much toxins in, and the body needs time to break that stuff up and get it out, or you will have a physical breakdown or a mental breakdown. And this is where sleep becomes extremely important so that that body will have enough time to stop doing all the labor of walking around on a daily basis to be able to clear it out. That's really what sleep is all about. As far as I'm concerned, I need honestly 6 hours of sleep. I work to try to get at least 6 hours of sleep. Sometimes because of the experiences that's going on, that don't happen to be less. But I work to do that. The whole idea is people have said you need 8 hours of sleep or this, that. Sometimes 5 hours of sleep is too much for us, depending on what I've done, the kind of activity that I've implied on the body. And if you've actually experienced how stressful things can be in life and the physical things that you're doing, that tells you how much sleep you're going to actually need, Paul. And most people just they overwork psychologically. They're traumatized by their daily experiences. Can you imagine how much body healing or sleep that particular person need to get to a norm? So most people never ever get to a norm. And some people sleep won't even do it because they don't do any detoxing, no purging, no healing. So sleep is a healing experience. I
Do
want
you
to check to make sure you hear.
I hear you, I hear you. Uh, do you wake up with an alarm clock or no?
Yeah, with Mother Nature. When when the sun rises now, this is serious now. Imma get you out here one day, Paul. What happens is there are certain birds that wake up. You know that. They wake up at a certain time. There's a certain bird that let I know what time it is. I tend to just wake. It's just a natural process. I just wake at a certain time. It's usually before the break of dawn. And I do it's kinda Earth is round. Most some people say it's flat. They talking out their mind. It's round, and so it's a circle. And so what happens is you start your circle of life on a daily basis. You get the things you need to get done within a period of time. And then you can feel the day. The more you're interfacing, interrelating with nature, you can feel the whole movement of it. And sometimes you want to tell people, but they're so disconnected from the living experience of earth, wind, rain, and sun that you can't explain this to them. You can actually get into a groove where you function just like the earth. And actually, you just do not require as much of the same kind of energy like food. Sometimes I just have no desire to eat for that particular day. And sometimes it can go into the next day. As a matter of fact, I just had an experience in the family. They're coming, you need some juices or something. And, juice is food. So I'll take some juices. My digestive system is good. So sleeping I don't have a desire to do a lot of sleep during those particular periods of time. I don't necessarily recommend this as a person dietary or sleeping pattern because they have to relate to their body and how their body interface with their daily activities, mentally, physically, and spiritually. We have to stay holistic.
Okay. Thank you for that. I got 4 more topics and then we're done. 4 more questions.
Oh, hey, you if you got 10 more, Imma see if I can stay there with
Well,
you 'cause
I do have more, but I gotta get going. But here's the
alright,
next
so
one. The next one
alright.
the next one is from a diet standpoint, I know we can definitely get everything we need to get from our food. What do you do for vitamin B12 and also the essential fatty acids?
Now you know what I'm gonna tell you, right? If 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 what I need is not available in raw living fruits, vegetables, seeds, and nuts, I do not need it. Absolute. I do not need it. You see, if you're dealing with an environment where the trees are depleted because they are stripped of certain kinds of natural elements, or the environment is sprayed, or any of those things, you may need some supplements. You see? And the supplements, if the supplements are not coming from raw and living fruits, vegetables, seeds, and nuts, it should be simple and precise. A a natural and innate human being do not need it. Now we have lost our contact with our natural and innate state of being. So we perceive and believe different things. I am not talking about beliefs. I'm talking about facts, biological facts of life. So a lot of times there are those who have talked out over these years, and you know it. How do you get your fatty acids? How do you get? It's like maybe I don't need no fatty acids. If that be the case, what am I getting this for? Why do I need this? Do my body need to burn off certain things and I don't have enough of whatever you calling those things to burn off the toxins that I'm putting in? If so, why don't I simply do not put the toxins in the body and then I won't need those things? I am not a predator. I am not a flesh consumer. And the flesh consumers, all of the ones who are at a level where they actually can have a decent life expectancy. They have very short life expectancy. Predators have very short life expectancy. They burn out quickly and they get a lot of fatty acids and they get a lot of vitamin B12. So it's said from attacking something and killing it and consuming it. However, we have a long life expectancy, especially those of us who focus on consuming from the fruit to the tree of life. And we haven't even expanded how long our life cycle can be because we've been caught up in a world that has reduced us to a level and degree where we have consumed like predators and scavengers and stuff like that. That reduces our existence. So those beings may need those things. I am not trying to interfere, interrupt with what they may feel they need or believe they need. I'm talking beyond beliefs. I'm talking to all knowing facts about our biological, our anatomical makeup as a living human being, Homo sapien. And we are herbivores by law, by nature, by divine order. And so I'm speaking from that perspective. And in that perspective, if it don't come from the fruits and the vegetables and the seeds and the nuts, I do not need it. And I have no desire for it. And as a result of that, it has given the iodine opportunity to have a greater experience with earth, wind, rain, and sun, with Mother Nature, with the most supreme essence of masculine and feminine energy. And that's the greatest gift that I could have. And my recommendation is that we work to connect with our holistic living presence instead of connecting with those things that have been bent and broken and torn us apart. We're too divided as human beings. We can actually have a situation where we don't need those things. And that means we will not be so warlike. We will not be so conflict, confusion oriented. We will not perpetuate so much chaos. That is the nature of a predatorial state of being. We have come we have come up on this earth to be higher peace conscious oriented beings. And we need to find our way forward again. We need to recover. So there's no need for us to be dealing with those things that outside of our anatomical or our biological necessities, things that have been put on us for someone to make a little cash or to perpetuate their particular state of reasoning from where they are. We have to realize that we need holistic living fuel, fruits of the tree of life, to keep our brain fully functioning, to keep our body fully functioning, and to keep us fully functioning within a soul to soul spiritual relationship with each other.
Thank you for that. So thank you for that. Uh, how much of your diet do you incorporate sea vegetables into your diet, and what is your opinion about sea moss?
Love it. I love sea moss. I actually, even if it's freshwater moss, if the thing is, I know you realize that I have a tremendous respect for seaweeds. And the various seaweeds are very, very, very nutritional for brain development. They have a high intense level of certain nutritional factors that make you very sharp and very alert as to how you think, reason, and act. So my son just flew in from Guyana, and my other son had flew and met him there. And the very first thing he did was to bring some raw, uncooked, unbaked, unmessed with seaweed. And I just feel like giving him such a big hug because I think he wants to make sure that my brain is completely kept in tune so I don't think into Alzheimer's or something like that so they can get this knowledge out of it. I think that's why he do it. But
Sure.
for the seaweed, it is necessity. We need it. And
Absolutely.
we don't need fish. We need the food that the fish eat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question out of left field, like in the ballpark. This is a left field question.
All
Uh,
right.
you can answer it if you want. If you don't want to answer it, just say pass. We'll go to the next subject. Okay. The question
Okay.
is, what's your opinion about Dr. Sebi's teachings?
Uh, long ago, Dr. Sabi encountered the I in Philadelphia. There was a place called the First Intercourse. He encountered the I. We had lots of communication. He actually eat. He actually ate lots of the First Intercourse foods. He talked about the healing elements of it. That was back in the 70s. I had left, I think you realize, and I was on a sojourn inside the jungles. And when I came back recently, I'm near where he lived. He's living across Honduras, and basically, his some of the family interconnected when he was deceased. The thing that I can recall is this: he likes to talk about the particular dietary framework, which I don't have no issue about alkaline framework because of how our body's defense immune system is established. What I say is to him and to any one of them, whoever comes with it, if it ain't live, give it up. If you eat the raw and living fruits, vegetables, seeds, and nuts in a balanced manner, your body will synchronize that because you are a reflection of the tree of life culture. Now, someone said, "But what happens? Do you eat limes? Lime is acid." I said, "Hey, I eat lime because that's one of the best defense immune elements that you can get." They said, "But Dr. Sebi said," and I said, "Okay, I respect that if that's what his application. Base it on what he was speaking of holistically. Maybe you were not eating whole and clean from the fruits of the tree of life, and he's dealing with you based upon whatever his experience is with those populations that he was dealing with. I think you realize I'm straight no chase. If it ain't live, raw living fruits, vegetables, seeds, and nuts, I say give it up. And if you want to consume it, you got to use your brain and start to think and reason. We were talking about some of the seeds earlier and some of the herbs and the leaves. That is much appreciated because that's where we have to go. We need to have more botany comprehension. Since we are tree of life consumers, we need to know what we're consuming because there are some leaves in that jungle that you eat and you won't talk about it again for a long time in this lifetime. And you have to have a comprehension. So when we start talking about dietary plans, we have to comprehend who is it that that being is addressing. And if he's addressing people who really are not interested or have no experience with raw living fruits, vegetables, seeds, and nuts, then he's going to have to come from a whole different platform in how he communicate with them. So I can comprehend when he tell people it's an alkaline diet. I can comprehend. I know that most of those beings are eating in what I would consider a worst case scenario, and they're moving to another level, and there are different levels that one moves. And I'm not talking about no one upmanship. I'm talking about there are different levels of getting back in touch with your natural and innate state of being as a herbivorous being. And if you comprehend that, then the closer you get to whole life relationship with your tree of life consumption, earth, wind, rain, and sun relationship, the more you will begin to comprehend what every element there is for. So no, you don't overindulge in limes, which is alkali, which is an acid. You don't overindulge with it, and you do not impact your body with acid foods because it'll burn a hole in your stomach. It may be that your acid level in the body is overindulged, your alkaline level in the body is underindulged, and you should not be indulging in acids. If it's a alkaline overflow because you have not had those defense immune elements in your body, you may need a teaspoon, a small spoon of that inside your body to help keep a body balance. So we have to deal with what is it that we're talking about? Not just simply coming up to these phases where persons say, no, you don't eat this, you don't eat that, based on what you're talking about. Now, I would say, no, do not eat dead, devitalized, and depleted food substance unless you feel like experiencing the vibrations and the sensations, the sickness, disease, disorder, the mental trauma that will go with your body trying to do something with stuff that do not fit into your natural and innate biological state of being. So that's how I would feel about it. I don't have any conflict per se. It's just that we got to move and we have to move further and further into consuming the holistic living energies from the fruits of the tree of life. And that's where we're going.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, so I know people that trying to avoid taking opioids and other medical painkillers, but at the same time they've got addicted to some natural herbs such as kratom, kava, and cannabis, and it's like really addicted to this. I understand the sensitivity of using herbs the correct way and the wrong way. But what's your opinion about these three things in general? Do you consider them all in the same category or do you consider them in separate categories?
Well, now what you're talking about is someone who has overindulged. So you have a whole different experience that you're dealing with. You're talking about someone who has been adversely affected by what they're doing in life. And we were talking about something a little earlier before we came on air. There are certain things, for example, it is absolutely recommended body, eye, and eye. And all of my children are birthed from these hands. However, if an experience occur where a young, let's say a young mate is not quite able, her body has not been prepared to deliver, and she's not quite able to deliver because the all of the elements that's necessary, cervix is not moving wide enough. We may have to take another kind of decision. That's what we're talking about. That's a different experience. We're talking about what happens in a state of emergency. What happens in a state of urgency? How do we survive an experience? And then what can we learn mentally, physically, and spiritually after surviving that experience so we don't have to face it again? And here's the most important thing: we are given the gift of life. Life is for the living giving to the generation next in divine order. We have to look, listen, learn, and discern so that we get the lessons and the blessings of the essence of life and pass that on. So, for those who have actually had endangered experiences because of overindulgent addictions, we have to comprehend that the body do not need to be adversely affected by addictions. However, if that occur and it requires one to try to balance the other, excuse me, to keep you within a living experience so you will have time to learn your lesson, retrieve your blessing to move into the essence of life, then it may be necessary for you to do that. It all depends on what you believe or what you actually relate to within the essence of life. So, as far as that is concerned, I would say it's very difficult to deal with someone when they have an addiction. I've witnessed it. I mean, it's just too much and you just got to have it and etc. And so there are certain programs that someone is put on. I took a young lady back in the 60s, the 70s that was in a serious situation. And I took Raw Living Foods to work with that person. The person was in a program and it was very difficult, very challenging because the moment any stress level come, the moment something got her off balance, she needed it. And I was not going to provide it for her. So we have to find different kinds of alternatives within nature, but that means that the person has devoted his or her life to finding out these different kinds of natural and innate ways of communicating with the body in nature. Most don't have that. So they have to call on something else. Those who have had to rely on these particular substances to offset another substance that they have overindulged with, I think the greatest thing that I could say to the person, if you survive that, if you get past it, learn the lesson, retrieve the blessing, and recognize that you've been given this holistic living life experience so that you can give a greater sense of mental, physical, and spiritual conscious reasoning to the generation next in divine order.
Thank you, thank you. Uh, Another question, diet related. Papaya with lime, delicious common combination. Is that good or bad to have together? I hear
Well,
mixed things about that.
yeah, well, now here's the thing. I enjoy papaya with cayenne pepper. That is so fantastic. And there are some occasions where I have seen papaya with a little lime juice over it. I tend to prefer my papaya straight, no chase, or with a little pepper over it.
Well,
You see?
it's delicious with lime. It's delicious,
Yeah,
but
yes,
is it unhealthy to do mix those two?
I would prefer not to mix them. I do, as I say, I've seen people squeeze some over and they look like they're really enjoying it. I think if you don't overindulge, it could be all right. I prefer my papaya straight, no chase. And as far as the lime is concerned, I do know if you do not overindulge with the lime, it is not what people are trying to project it to be. It is a healing element. It's
Sure,
a
but
very
if you have a lime one papaya and one lime. Is that okay in your
Yeah.
opinion?
How about 1 papaya and 1/4 of a lime?
Okay. I mean, was that
Yeah.
is are you suggesting that would be better for people?
I think that I know that that would be better for you.
Okay, okay.
I'm not
Now
talking about one of them big, I ain't talking one of
I
them
know,
big
I
ones.
understand, I understand. Do you eat so you're saying lime is okay, just don't overdo it. I got you.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Just squeeze you a little bit over, but, it got a nice little flavor to it. I
Do
always
you
thought.
eat the skin of the papaya or no?
I tend with papaya, I don't mess with the seeds, or I do not really indulge with the skin of it too much. I've become a little older, and
You
as you know, I have a different kind of a lifestyle,
sure,
you
sure.
know?
I
So,
understand, I get you. Do
I
you
don't need to go any further, huh?
do you eat green papaya like a lot of people do in Asia?
No, there is a papaya that gets ripe while it's green. No, I don't eat no green. I prefer all fruits to be ripe. Uh,
Sure.
yeah, I do
Okay.
not have it.
Mangoes, the varieties of mangoes and other food. Do you just eat anything and everything, or are you aware, like I am? I've become very aware of all the different types of named fruits, whether it's jackfruit, mango, black sapote. I know there's different varieties with each one. Most
Uh,
people, they don't know. They just say jackfruit. But like, are you familiar and on your where you eat? Do you eat different varieties that you know the names, or do you just eat whatever's good and you don't think about the names?
But I tell you very blunt, as far as jackfruit is concerned, there's a particular jackfruit that I eat. There's one that I think it's just by taste. I'm not sure. I haven't. There's a particular one that I just don't favor, so I don't eat it. But there's that firm one that tastes like a pineapple, but it's a that jackfruit. Then there's one that's soggy and etcetera. That one, for some reason, it don't fit I don't tend to want to
But you don't
consume
have
of
the
it.
names of them. You don't that's what I meant. You don't know the names of varieties
Uh,
that
well they in the jungle, they got different kinda little version names of it, but it usually is by description. There's the
right,
firm
okay.
one and
Yeah.
there's you see?
Yeah, yeah, we call them
Yeah, but now
the
the
crunchy ones.
mango.
We call them the crunchy ones and the soft ones. That's how we say about jackfruit.
That's right. That's what and here they call it the firm one and the soggy one. You see?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, just like,
But mango.
ackee, same thing with ackee. There's firm and there's soft. There's butter ackee,
That's right.
there's hard ackee. Okay, what about
That's right.
mango? There's so many different varieties. You indulge in
Ooh,
one or all the different types?
man, not indulging me some mango. As you know, we grow all of the different types. You will see every kind you can imagine. There's the basic. There's the one that don't not stringy. Let's just be straight on it. The one that's not stringy. I mean,
Yep,
I know all the names of them, but I don't think that's important. And then there's the one that's stringy. There's one they call cherry mango. There's the one they call slippery, slippers. There's one that they call black mango. There's one that's green mango. There's one that, is what do you call it? Haitian mango. I
yeah.
mean, there are all these different varieties of them, and what I would say is make sure that they're ripe, and once you make sure that they're ripe, the flavors are gonna change tremendously. If you make sure that they're ripe, then I would say enjoy that mango. Make sure that nobody's spraying it up and stuff like that. And the leaves, this is the part. We have to have more respect for the leaves of the mango because that thing is very healing.
Absolutely, absolutely. This has been a pleasure. For people that want to get in touch with you, what's the best website? I know you're on social media. I'm going to put all those links below everybody, but what's the best place people can get in touch with you?
We have our favorite one that's been there for a long time. It's called Sacred Garden Culture Network. .info.
Okay, I'm going to put that link below for sure.
Yeah.
And I know you got several books out and other CDs and wonderful information, but all of those, including that Code Green, are those available to that website?
Yes. Uh, okay. What she's saying is most of those are available on Amazon.
Okay,
And she say
okay.
basically that's basically since Amazon began back in the day, we've had the books. It's about 14 of them or something of that nature. I forget, but basically they're all on Amazon, and it's really easy. Once you go to Amazon and you write Kwatamani, High Priest Kwatamani, then the books are going to show up. That's what they're saying. But Sacred Garden Culture Network, and then of course that Live Food Sunchild. Those are some of the popular ones. But I would go with the one that the priestess is talking about. They're the ones who handle that. You remember during the war over when I was over in Africa, that what you call the Blood Diamond War, which unfortunately I had to experience that for real. They had a lot of chemicals around, a lot of different chemicals. I had to save these children. It was 5 of them at the time, and I had to get them out of an environment, and the water was polluted like I don't know what. And the mate and those 5 children are so precious to I. I take it very serious that we, the masculine, has been given the divine, natural, and innate duty, obligation, responsibility to safeguard the women and the children. So I take that very serious. That process caused I to lose my eyesight. The thing about that that was not disturbing is that the old soothsayer had told I that there is going to come this time that I would actually disconnect from the physical sight of things, and I would have a greater focus from that third eye side of things and from the soul and the spirit. And that would be the most blessed time in the life of the Anak. So people often say, You don't seem frustrated. You can't see things physically." And I say, you know what? I realize there's a lot of this mess out here. There's a lot of this toxic disorder. It is a blessing not to be able to see it. So I can keep a wholesome and positive relationship with our existence as living beings and continue to accentuate a positive nature of experience and give someone something that will allow them to interconnect with life that is for the living, for giving to the generation next in divine order.
Next, thank you. What about it's very popular today. People say they're on a salt, sugar, and oil-free diet. We don't even have to talk about sugar. We know how bad processed sugar is. What about
Wow.
salt and extracted oils? Do you use because I make recipes for people and you got to introduce them to living food some way. But do you use personally salt and extracted oils for your own diet?
Well, I think you know that there's Himalayan salt. So,
Yes.
so it don't interface with what people are talking about. Okay. But Himalayan salt is a very nutritional, high impact salt. It is full of minerals. So I would use it, but I use it scarcely. It's strong, so you don't have to use it heavy. I mean, that's to eye. Some people say, but can you put a little more in it?" That very seldom occur with us. The thing when you start talking about the processed element, you need to stay away from those things. They are actually harmful to the body. The body cannot identify what that is. It's not interfacing with what's going on in it, and you cause body chaos. The other element that you spoke about, oils. Coconut, we make our own oil from it. It's very simple. We use the sun, and it rises to the top. You say the cream rises to the top, the oil rises, and you just scrape it off and use it. There's something else. We have some other different kinds of. There's one seed here, the cahoon nut. That is got to be. It is right now. You can't hardly get it. It's very expensive because they found out that it has tremendous body necessities in it. We have lots of cahoon nuts. We have over 100 acres, and basically we have it full of trees.
What's it
Uh,
called?
Cahoon nut, and that thing
How
makes
do you
some
spell that?
COHUNE, cahoon
And you
nut.
make oil from that.
Oh my goodness, yes. And we put and you can take a few and make so much, but you gotta go through the process. You gotta pound it, and you got to get it broken down so that the oil will rise to the top. And with the cahoon nut, we got certain kind of extractors I'm talking about, how you call it, sugarcane juicers and etc., that we can take and put it in there and break it down so that it becomes the oil. And that's when we're out, you should know this. Well, what we do back in the day, we used these same things. We made them and put them over the food. And I can remember so well that encounter that you had in Brooklyn with Anna, and you ate that dish, and the biggest smile came on your face, and you said, this is so good. This is not cooked. I remember it so well. I said,
Yeah,
all right, this is a beautiful soul here. And you were just innocent. You were innocent, but you were serious about how good that thing was.
yeah.
So
Well,
it,
so what about like things like olive oil and avocado oil and the standard things like that? I mean, do you indulge in those at all?
we focus on those things that we can produce. Extra, extra, they call it double extra virgin olive oil, cold press, first cold press. If you're in a situation, if you can find one that's really good and solid, you'll know it because it's super thick. You can use that, you see? But if you start to get into those things, you know, the commercialized people are concerned about cash and carry. So they really are not concerned about one's wholesome health and well being. They give you a little of it to stretch it a long way so they can get more money. And it's unfortunate. We got to move past that mindset.
Exactly, exactly. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time. I want to talk to you for 10 more hours, but I got to get going to an appointment. But thank you so much. And we have to do it again. And everybody, if you want to get in touch with Priest Kwatamani, please go to the links below and definitely check them out. Just a great inspiration and living it. Check him out. He's here he is doing great. And keep up the great work, man.
Hey, it's so beautiful to connect with you again and again. You know, we're connected. We made an agreement. How many? 27 years ago. We
Yes.
made an agreement, and you had an oath of upholding. And so far, so good. You better not go back on it.
Well, I'm gonna give everybody some wisdom that you've gave me because I'm a very disciplined person and I've
That's
always
right.
been disciplined. But I remember you told me because of what happened with your eyesight, you said you're not as a disadvantage as to we are who have eyesight because we can see things that can deceive us, which you don't have that weakness that we have. So be careful what you see and
All
the
right.
reality of things. And I always, as I was, I always keep that in mind. Always, I remember the day you told me that, and I always keep that in mind. And thank you for just the lessons you teach and all those blessed people around you to get that wisdom. And I hope to have you back on the show again. And looking forward to getting down there and seeing you in person. But please keep up the work, great work you're doing. Okay.
All right. Hey, much love, thanks, praise, and appreciation to you and all of those little children that you telling me that you done have, and bless that mate. You tell her I say stay strong and stay firm and take care of them babies.
Yes, keep up the great work, and also tell your family I said hello and blessings upon them.
All right.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the raw life health show. Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the raw